What is a psychodramatist? A psychodramatist is basically based in action. So what I mean by action is show me your story, don't tell me your story. If you show it to me and we actually see it and we're working with it within the actual real story, we can get things done. We can move forward. Because we're not working with a script. We're not working with a hypothetical, because my hypotheticals aren't somebody else's story, right? I don't know your story with your daughter. I don't know your story with your son. I can only give you a hypothetical. That doesn't help. I don't think it helps. And I don't use scripts either. Because scripts, after a while, the person you're talking to doesn't have the same script. And then when your script runs out, you're like searching, like, uh-oh. And so then the social difficulties come right back up. So when I'm working with anybody, when I'm working with parents, when I'm working with young adults, when I'm working with teens, couples, and even when Jonathan and I are working with families, which I'll talk about later in this, I do it all in the same way. And that's how we're going to do this workshop tonight. We're going to do this workshop in action. All right? So there's reasons for doing it in action. There's been many studies done that say the most senses you can use while you're learning something, the better it integrates. So by doing things in motion, by speaking, by standing, things are getting into your mind, into yourself, because it's all coming from all different directions. And it also teaches you to be spontaneous, to be yourself in a moment, to be spontaneously yourself in the moment. And what does spontaneity mean? So spontaneity isn't, improv comedy. Spontaneity isn't like, I can make you laugh by telling you like every joke in a movie. Spontaneity is being good enough. Good enough in the moment is true spontaneity. Because when your anxiety is very, very high, your spontaneity is very, very low. So you can't be present. And you can't really be present with anybody. So if you're thinking about working with your teen and you're thinking about how do I have better communication with my teenager, you need to be spontaneous as well. You need to let your anxiety about whatever the situation go, just like they do, and we'll talk about that and we'll work on that later, so that you can be spontaneously in the moment with them. That's something that we as parents always forget. We're always sort of thinking down the lines, like, this conversation is not working, which is going to mean that this is going to happen, which is going to mean that this is going to happen, which is going to mean this, and then you're going to get grounded. That's going to be it. It's going to end badly for everybody. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to figure out what communication is. What does it look like? What is it? And what does it mean when you don't have good communication with your teen or your young adult? What does that look like? What does that mean? And the way we're going to do this is we're going to, like I said, do it in action. That's what I want you to see. That's what I want you to experience. And that's how I would teach, and that's what I want you to learn from, is to learn in action. So we're going to start this like we're in a group. We're here to learn about not community theater. We're here to learn about communicating better with our teenagers and our young adults. All right? So in order to do that as a group, we need to start being a group. So in order to be a group, you need to group build. This is what I do in my workshops. Usually in my workshops, I run for 5 weeks at a time, about an hour and a half each group session. And often I spend at least one complete hour and a half on building a group. So building a group, making sure that everyone feels safe, everyone feels heard, everyone feels the ability to speak up, and everyone feels like they're not going to be judged. That's huge. Nobody wants to be judged. Anyone here want to be judged? Really? Nobody wants to be judged. So that's the importance of group building. And the other thing that's important of group building, especially if you're working with people who've got social difficulties, is they need to feel that they're not alone. They need to feel and know that there are people that understand them, that can empathize with them, that see it from their perspective. Because so many people don't see it from their perspective. People with social difficulties, they're always trying to say, but, and everyone's like, I don't understand what you're saying. So they never get a chance. So they have to be able to feel, I get a chance in this room. All right? So one of the ways we do this in action And this is called a spectrogram, which is a psychodramatic technique. And it's a psychodramatic technique used specifically for group building. And what it does, it's a measurement. All right? And it's a measurement of a question. And the question has either a positive response or a not so positive response. And somewhere on this line, people are. And remember, this is group building. So the group, nobody has a name tag, right? None of you have name tags. You know, what's a name tag do? How does that tell anybody anything about you? How does that tell them that you understand their story? It doesn't tell them anything. Spectrogram will. So this spectrogram, the question is, how well do I communicate with my teen, my young adult? I'd like you all to stand up. Yeah, it's an action, which means you got to stand up. So Kim, stand up. So over there, we'll make it shorter, so you don't have to walk so far. Over here is we've got the best relationship on the planet. Over here is I have nothing. Okay? So go place yourself somewhere along that line. Yes?
What if you have more than one child? You have a difference in the way you relate.
Ah, use the child that is the most difficult to speak to. There's clumping. Clumping. I love clumping. Clumping. There's many people who are in one area. So you are very close to, we have a great relationship.
Yes.
Okay. So why'd you put yourself there?
Because I feel like that's where we are,
Mm-hmm.
but it was after many, many years.
Many, many years.
So I'm like over the hump.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had a younger daughter who was horrible for like 4 years, and now I feel like she's over the hump.
Ah, so this is over the hump. That's key. That's an important thing to remember.
But a year ago, I would have been right there.
Right.
He's hope.
He's hope. He's hope. Perfect. So the question we're going to come back to is, why do you think that's happening? Because the whys under why some things aren't working are usually the clues as to how to make it better. I'm going to put out some scarves. Scarves are the tool of the psychodramatist. All right, if you see, I have lots of scarves, lots and lots and lots of scarves. I have one client who has given me permission to state that these are called the scarves of power. I love that. That was what she calls them, that is what she calls them, because they are used for lots of purposes. They're used for more than just measurements. They're used for more than group building. And I'll show you as we go how I use them. But scarves are the tools of psychodramatists. Neurotypical, neurodiverse, not neurotypical, they're all labels. They're all labels. They are helpful labels. Diagnoses. Vanna White is also a psychiatrist, so I go to him often for the actual terminology. Diagnosis.
Trying to go for letter E.
So they are helpful for lots of many different reasons. They're helpful for insurance. They're helpful to know. They're helpful. Are they helpful for the kid? Are they helpful for the teen to know that they are labeled? What do you think? Not always. It's not always helpful. Some are fine with it. Some, it becomes the explanation for everything that's happening in their lives. Other people are like, I don't want that label. I am who I am. I am normal unto me, which is how I look at it. They are normal unto them. There are things that could be smooth. There are things that could be fixed. There are things that will make it easier for them to go forward socially. All of that. But they are normal unto them. And that's something important to remember. Because if we don't remember that, it's a lot of, you should, you didn't, made a mistake. It all comes out negative. Because it's not like, oh, okay, you did that. So that's Kathy, that's the way she does things. All right, it's not working. How can we fix what's working? Because this is Kathy's normal way of doing it. May not be working for a conversation, but that's her. So how do we make this work? This is where we're going to sort of get into it, because we're going to look at the actual things that have happened, the difficult conversations. All right? I know none of your children are here, but that is another purpose of the scarves. Ta-da! The scarves of power. So, who would like to show us a difficult conversation? It doesn't have to be anything deeply personal. This is not a confidential group. This does not have to be something deeply personal. I would be more into that in my own groups, in my own office. It would be confidential, it would be safe, it would not leave the room. This is an open workshop. So anything that is a difficult thing, a difficult conversation that you had, or sometime that you maybe came down hard on somebody, on your daughter, and she responded. Do you have one? You want to come up? Okay. So first, what is your name?
Hallie.
Hallie. Nice to meet you, Hallie.
too.
Okay. So why don't you have a seat here? And what's your daughter's name? Now you can
Ellie.
Ellie and Hallie?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. How did you even have a conversation with each other's names? Allie, Hallie, it's like Allie, Hallie, Allie. It's like, oh my God. That would be a theater tongue twister. Allie, Hallie, Allie, Hallie, Allie, Hallie. So pick a scarf for Allie.
The leopard.
The leopard. She's sassy? Okay. So that is Hallie.
Ellie.
Allie. See? Ellie.
Ellie.
Ellie, Hallie.
Yeah.
Ellie, Hallie.
Yeah.
Okay. Take a seat.
I'm Ellie.
You are Ellie. You are Ellie. We need to know Ellie, right? Ellie's not in the room, is she? Don't we need to know who she is, what she's like, what she thinks of Mom? Absolutely, we do. So, nice to meet you. Ellie?
Yeah.
Ellie.
Yeah.
Okay, so nice to meet you. Your mom and you have very similar names.
Yeah.
Do people get confused?
Sometimes.
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 So you're about how old?
12.
12. Whoa. When are you going to be 13?
August. Yeah.
So you are really close to being 13.
Yeah. And I'm ready. Like 13, I need to start getting some, I'm 13. I'm going to be 13 and it's time.
It's time.
Yeah, like to get Instagram, to get a
Ah.
phone, yeah.
Instagram and
13. I mean, I'm an adult.
you are. So wait a second. You don't have a phone?
I have a phone, but I mean, I have nothing, I can barely use,
So you can't Instagram?
No,
You can't Snapchat?
none.
Facebook?
None.
Nothing?
No, my mom's ridiculous.
Oh my gosh. Your
Ridiculous.
mom is ridiculous.
Ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Everybody else can.
But you can't.
Nope.
So do you know why your mom's being absolutely ridiculous?
She's really strict, really controlling. I'm allowed to text, but only people she knows. She can read she's just over the top.
Wow.
And I am independent. I'm a person. I'm independent. But
And you're going to be 13,
13.
right? You're not going to be 12.
adult.
Yeah, absolutely an adult. You're no longer 12. 13, absolutely. Close to voting age. So, here's Ellie. All right? So Ellie's told me a lot about Hallie, Ellie's mom, which is perfect. This is what we do. We want to hear it from Ellie's voice, because this is the perspective that Mom has of what Ellie is thinking and feeling. These are her mom's perceptions of Ellie. I'm sorry, Ellie, am I right?
I'm Hallie. Ellie.
You're Ellie.
Yes,
You're
I'm
still Ellie. You're still Ellie. See, I told you. It was their names. It's their names. It's their names. You're Leopard. You're Ellie. So I have another question for you. What else could be going on with Ellie that Ellie's not at the moment telling us, that maybe even Mom doesn't know? Any thoughts? Any ideas?
She's anxious about the whole social media thing, perhaps.
Ellie might, yes, she might very well be anxious about that. What else? What else might be going on besides what's, yes?
I think Ellie thinks Hallie doesn't trust her.
I think that's true. So Ellie, Is that true? Do you think Mom doesn't trust you?
Yeah, and, yeah, I've done a few things, but, she took my phone away, gave it back, and, I think I've earned the trust. And I'm 13.
Yes, we've established that, Ellie. You are 13.
And
We are very
I
clear.
want to be independent. I want to have my own voice. I want to be heard. I don't want to be,
Okay.
I have my own views and my own things. Like, listen to me.
Right, absolutely. Listen to you.
Yeah.
Have you ever told this to your mom?
Yes.
And how'd that go?
She doesn't listen to me.
She doesn't listen to you.
No.
She doesn't listen. Okay. Well, thanks, Ellie. Can I talk to Hallie?
Sure.
Okay. So we just learned.
Multiple personalities.
No, we just learned about your daughter. We just learned about your daughter.
Yes, yes.
And we learned a little about what your daughter thinks is going on with you. Okay. So she said you took her phone away. Okay. That might be a good scene to explore. What happened then? So why don't you tell me what happened? What was going on? Where were you? What happened that you took her phone away?
I went to tuck her in, which I do every evening.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, where's your iPod? Everything's plugged in downstairs, except the iPod is her alarm clock. So I said, where's your iPod? I don't know, Mom. I have no idea. I'll find it later. I said, well, let's find it now because we need your alarm clock. We need to find it now. And she said, okay. And she stood up looking around everywhere, and I'm right behind her. And I'm like, And then I pull her sheets, and there's the iPod in the bed. I said, well, look at that. There's the iPod. She's like, I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. And I said, Ellie, you know, that was very dishonest, and we don't lie in this family, and blah, 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 blah. So took the iPod. It was gone for about a week or so. So we broke the trust. And
Okay. So we have a trust issue. We have a big trust issue. So what's on her iPod?
nothing, really. believe me.
Nothing.
It's ancient. It's an alarm. Well, no, there is some. Okay. So she was watching like maybe a show or something. There's music, there's shows, there's alarm clock, there's breathing. She likes that white noise. She was watching a show.
Okay.
She couldn't fall asleep, was watching a show.
Okay. She couldn't fall asleep. She was watching a show. So, let's go back and be Hallie. Ellie. Oh, you this is going to drive me crazy. Ellie. So, Ellie, Mom just said that when the iPhone situation happened and she took away your phone, you were watching a show, and you had it hidden?
I couldn't fall asleep. It's not a big deal. I mean, she's got everything restricted. I'm like on Disney. I'm not allowed to watch anything like, I just couldn't fall asleep, so I was just watching it. And then she walked in and, I panicked and, I knew I was caught.
You knew you were caught.
Yes, because I'm not, I was supposed to be asleep.
So I'm going to try something here with Ellie. Okay? And this is another psychodramatic technique that's called doubling. And doubling is a way that I, or anybody else in the group, this is something that the group can do as well. So what it's called is that doubling, I stand behind the person who's speaking, even though she is speaking for her daughter. It's still interesting and important to understand what may be under this, even though she's her daughter and this is what she thinks her daughter's perspective is. It might not really be right. So she needs to know. So what I do is I stand behind her. And so Ellie, can you say that last sentence about why Mom took it away or why she's so strict? That you were watching a movie and you got caught?
Mom thinks I'm a sneaky fox.
So Mom thinks I'm a sneaky fox. So what could be underneath that? So a double, I would say, Mom doesn't trust me, and it makes me really sad, and it really hurts. Is that right?
Yes.
And you always check it out. Because if it's right, it's great information. But if it's wrong, it's equally great information. Okay? And we're going to do something in a little while called role reversal. Again, okay? Mom needs to really know what it feels like for Ellie when mom says the thing mom says to her. Mom can't really know until somebody, as mom, says it to her. Because it doesn't matter if Ellie says it. It's not the words from Ellie. It's mom's words. So mom needs to feel and understand Ellie's words. All right? So, mom, there she is. You found the iPhone. You found it. There it is. What happened? How angry? Show us.
I can't believe I can't trust you, you know, you lied. I can't believe this. I was right there. You're looking for it. That is ridiculous. I knew I couldn't trust you. This is gone. You know, I just can't believe you would lie to me. You know that's not acceptable. You do not lie to me. I don't lie to you. It's disrespectful. I'm done. The phone's done. Good night. Slam the door.
Slam the door. All right, I'm going to double you. And this is why it's great that I'm doing what I'm doing. Because if I'm not overprotective, she's just going to be watching movies all night. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so put it in your own words. This is why I'm right.
You mean say it again?
No, you can just say it out loud. Like,
Oh.
this is why, so I said, this is why I'm right, that I should be overprotective.
I'm just protecting her. I don't want her to lie and be dishonest. I want her to be a good kid. I'm just trying to, I'm being the adult. I'm her parent. I need to take care of her. I'm in charge. I'm the boss.
Okay. So, did you hear all of that?
Oh, yes.
Basically the essence of that? Did you hear the emotion and the basic power behind all of that?
Yes.
Okay, reverse roles.
Okay.
You're mom now. So mom, there it is. You just found it, the iPod. What happens? Let her have it. Do you want me to prompt?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not the kind of mom. I'm actually a 12-year-old boy who have very different kind of.
Okay. So, I can't believe you lied to me. How can I trust you? This is what you're not supposed to do. You got caught. I don't trust you. Just sort of do that. You just and amp it up.
Okay, I can't believe you did that. This is just awful. I can't believe you hid it and you did it, like hiding from me, and I can't trust you.
You're a liar. You're an absolute liar. You lied to me. You lied to me all the time. I can't trust you at all.
I don't. It was one mistake, okay? It was one mistake.
But you do.
No, I don't.
But you do.
I did just now.
Okay. So Ellie, how's that feel? Mom yelling at you.
Horrible.
Horrible. Reverse roles. So how did that feel, being Ellie, and getting that coming at you?
Sorry. I feel bad. It's all right. It's okay. But I feel bad. I liked what she said, that she doesn't, that's not how she would react. But it's true. I'm doing how I was raised, and I'm not proud of it. And it's affecting my child.
Thank you.
You know, I could deal with it in a much better, I'm acting like a child. She's not. I flip out.
Okay.
It's very black and white. I flip out.
So, we have found your block. We have found your block. That something happens, and it has to do with something. It's social media driven. Okay.
Or anything.
Or anything.
Yep.
Anything.
Dishonesty, just sneaky.
Sneaky. So anything that you think this is going to help or hurt her in the future, this is going to hurt her in the future. The sneakiness and the lying is going to hurt her if she continues it, as opposed to just what she's doing to her mom, which is very different than if she continues it throughout her life,
Right.
which is what you don't want.
Correct.
But you just recognized you're not really going about it the right way,
No.
right?
Right.
Is this the right way? I mean, she's making Ellie feel what?
Horrible.
Horrible. Ashamed. Guilty. I did something wrong. I'm doing what every other kid does, and I did something wrong. Right? Okay. So, you said something which was very important. Thank you for leading us into our next psychodramatic technique. You said, I wish I could have said it the way she said it. All right? So the next thing that we do in any workshop, especially when you're trying to learn how to communicate better, is you do something called role training. You learn how to be the better communicator. You learn how to be the communicator that is going to get through to whoever it is you're speaking to, whether or not it's your spouse, whether or not it's your child, whether or not it's a friend, or whether or not it's a family member. All right? But you need sometimes to actually say, the way I'm doing it, that particular role of mom isn't working. So, all right? So, what did you say? How did you do it? We're training Hallie now on how to speak to Ellie. When you were over there in the mom's role, you said, do you remember?
Yeah.
So how this is role training for her. This is what, the group is the one that's going to give the answers. I don't have all the answers. I'm not the expert on your child. You are the expert on your child. I am not the expert on the way you communicate. You are the expert on the way you communicate. So that is why we help each other, especially when we've established that all of us have similar issues. All of us have similar difficulties.
Yeah, so I think I said, I can't believe this happened, and it's awful, and I can't trust you. That's the 3 phrases I remember.
Right. But you said, I would do it differently because I have a boy.
Yeah, the part. So we have a more serious issue because he will lie a lot. Like we have the video games, and we had to restrict his access because if it was unrestricted, he would just skip the homework and stuff. So he tells me he feels bad that I don't trust him. He asks me in every conversation that he wants me to trust him, and I tell him I can't because this what happened, and happened many times. So we have to.
Okay. So what you do is you actually have a conversation with him
Yeah,
about trust. You approach it, and I'm curious to see if that would work better for you. You know, their approaches for people are very particular to people, which is, again, why we use these specific scenes. It's not generalized. It is your type of communication. It is Ellie's type of communication. It is your type of, it's how we each individually talk to each other. So that's why we need the real stories. So if you were to have a conversation with Ellie about, I want to trust you, tell me how I can. Show me, tell me. What would happen?
She'd talk very honestly and openly, and she would say, Mom, this is what you could, just let me earn, give me a chance.
Okay. And the difficulty for you to accept that is?
Probably control.
Okay. I have a thought. Again, the scarves can be used for many things. So often what happens is that even though we're not supposed, we haven't even gotten to the improvisation part, but we're not supposed to follow our own agenda. But we always follow our own agenda. We always think what we know, what we feel, what we project is the right thing. But we don't always think how far does that go and how can it affect the person we're talking to. So based on everything that you've said, I'm going to take a guess again, because I can only guess, is if I let her watch movies, she's going to want a bigger iPhone. If she gets a bigger iPhone, she's going to be Instagramming all the time. If she's Instagramming all the time, she's never going to be with me. If she's never with me, she's going to be with her other friends, and they're going to be Snapchatting. And if they're Snapchatting, then who knows what they're going to be Snapchatting about. And it can go on and on and on and on and on. And all that is your thoughts. That whole line is your thought of what will happen if she watches movies at night.
And fear. That all is fear.
Absolutely, that all is fear. And the biggest fear is, it always ends. The biggest fear is always, and I will be alone. Or she will be alone. Right. Or something will happen, she will be alone. It will be, it always ends, when we have this type of long line of thought, always ends in disaster.
Okay.
It never ends happy.
Yep.
It never ends. And then she wins the Nobel Peace Prize, and it's fabulous because she's no longer lying. That's not how these things end. They always end in catastrophe because that is our thought. Because we love our children. We want them to be happy. We want them to win the Nobel Peace. We want them to be successes. So we think we have the answers. But those are our answers. And our answers are fears and worries, especially if our kid has a social difficulty. Because we think we have to be the social police for them. We think we have to make sure the world is good to them. The world is right for them. What happens when they're not with you? Because that's the goal. Right? So, for the sake of continuing and what this would be, so you heard someone comes up with a suggestion that talking about it. So how would you talk to her about it?
I would say, Elba, we have to talk about this and work through it, and I know you want, my trust, and we can work at that and earn it, and, I love and care about you no matter what, and I'm just trying to help you.
Freeze. Anybody hear something that I'm hearing? Anybody hear a particular pronoun I'm hearing? I. I want this. I think we. I this. I know. Ellie's over here going, she thinks this. She knows. She's telling me. So, how do we do it differently? Just because there might be a social difficulty that a neurotypical kid doesn't have, this is still a teenager who wants to be a typical teenager. So if you're constantly on them, exactly, they're going to sneak more.
She is texting, but I'm controlling it. You know what?
You think you are, right. And the more you do this, I'm controlling it, the likelihood that she's going to do what? I'll work around it. Mom's controlling it. It's no longer mine. I need my voice. I'm working around that, which is not what you want because, again, we're back to that is all my fears. She is going to become lying more and more and more. So different.
Do it?
No, guys. What is wrong? What is wrong with a negotiation about it?
Yeah, a conversation. Yeah.
A conversation, a negotiation. She has a voice.
Yeah.
She's told you she has a voice.
And she did it the other day. She said to me driving, she said, Mom, I'm not going to talk, I'm just going to bring it up, but do you think when I turn 13 I could do Instagram? I said, Ellie, we can talk about that when you turn, good for you for asking, but I don't want to talk about it till August.
Okay.
We need to talk about it for 3 months.
Okay. So what could be a way that you could let her know? Because again, this young woman is sitting here going, am I going to be able to text? Am I going to be able to do anything? Do I have to wait till August? What's going to happen? I'm 13. All that. That's what this person's sitting with.
Yep.
So how do you give her a clue, which is probably what she wants,
Yeah.
that conversation is going to happen?
Right.
How do you tell her? Without going, I don't want to hear about this till August.
Well,
Different.
I think me saying I'm open to it. Say, Ellie, I'm open to it. I appreciate you bringing it up, and we can definitely, I don't want to say yes, but
Why not? Why not saying yes to a conversation? But this maybe then is the work. You need to then have a conversation. And this would happen again, even in a workshop that is about teen communication, even in a workshop that's about couples. We would go back. We would find out where this particular block, which is your block, came from. And it came from whoever would be in that chair, which would probably be one of your parents.
okay,
Make sense?
yes.
Make sense? Thank you. If a kid doesn't have access to social media, if a kid doesn't have access like every other kid, that adds to being a social outcast because every kid knows it. Every single kid knows it. And it can also add to them texting and writing about your kid because they don't have access to social media, so they don't even see what people might be saying about them. What cruel, I mean, social media can be vicious. Absolutely vicious. Can we protect our children completely from it? Absolutely not. We can't. It's everywhere. You know, they can look on it on their iPads at school. They can look on television. They can do everything. So if we try to hide it and try to take it away, it backfires. It always does. So what do you do about it? I think you have to see how your child is using it. If your child is using it as the way to communicate with the other kids, sometimes you have to say that's okay. You might want to limit time frames. You might want to say during dinner, no. After X time at night, no. But if they're doing it the way other kids are doing it, it's really hard to sort of say, no, you can't be like the typical kids. Especially if your kid is if your kid has problems or difficulties, social difficulties, and you're saying you can't be like the typical kids, that's a message you don't want to give them, is it? Not at all. So social media is difficult for all of us, especially for those of us who did not grow up with this. But it is their world. And that sort of leads into the video game discussion as well. Because a lot of kids who go to their rooms and stay in their rooms for hours and hours and hours, who have social difficulties, are on video games. So the question is, why? And most parents are like, I gotta get them off. I gotta turn off the video game. I gotta throw it out. They can't play it. Get rid of all the video games. Can we? Can that happen? At this point in time, can we get rid of any of these video games? Do they have access to it anytime they want? So, what does it do for them? Why do they need access to video games all the time? Coping mechanisms. Coping mechanism? What else?
Connection.
Yep.
They're connecting.
A lot of times kids who've got social difficulties say, I have tons of friends. I have hundreds of friends. Really? Oh yeah. Well, where are they? I play with them all the time. But where are they? Well, one lives in Colorado, one lives in Indiana, because they're all playing with each other virtually on these video games. So again, you're taking away social connection, which you don't want to do. But you want to find out why they need this as their sole coping mechanism. And then say, okay, if this is why you're using it, let's figure out some other ways. What are you trying to cope with? What are you trying to keep yourself contained with? What are your fears? What's propelling this? So again, it needs to come from them. If we make these decisions based upon our thoughts, again, we didn't grow up with it. We didn't connect to kids this way. We didn't play video games. We didn't do any of this. So we have no frame of reference to begin with. So it's a very hard topic, video games and social media, because kids use them. You can't take them away because you don't want to make them social outcasts, but you need to control them. But the older the kid gets, the more that conversation has to be a conversation. A conversation. Because if it's not a conversation, all you're doing is being the, do it my way. They get that everywhere. They don't need that at home. It can be a conversation, which is going to establish a relationship, which is what you want, no matter what you do. He doesn't know how it feels to be ordered. He doesn't know what it's like yet to be on the other side of the order. You do this, you do that, right? I mean, how does he say it?
You can fix me this.
Ah, you can fix me this.
That's one way of doing it, but go away or.
Okay. He doesn't know how that feels or that sounds yet until he is in your shoes. All right? So again, your son sounds like a type of young adult that I would work with. Because again, it sounds like he has this one strategy for getting what he wants, which is the order.
It's an interesting way of putting it.
I mean, that is how he gets what he wants. He orders. He doesn't know any other ways yet because he hasn't been confronted with that strategy doesn't work with other people, kid.
I keep telling him that. And
But it doesn't matter. See, you're telling him, your
It
mom.
doesn't seem like it makes any impact whatsoever.
But your mom. Oh my God, if my kids ever listened to anything I would say, that would be it. I'd be done. I'd be like, I'm done. I'm retiring now. They won't listen to you. Your mom, your dad, they don't. That's again, a normal teenager. So this is another thing I always do in my workshops. And it is very important. Again, it's important for individuals, teens, young adults, couples, families, everybody. All right? Making mistakes. All right? Making mistakes. I made a mistake. The fear in people who are on the autistic spectrum of making mistakes is huge. Huge. Because they're always told, that's wrong. You made a mistake. Don't do it that way. Do it this way. All right? So they're never allowed to say, and do it that way, and do it a wrong way. But a mistake is a mistake, and a mistake can be what? It can be corrected. That's it. It can be corrected until it gets totally internalized and it becomes part of their personality. So parents, we need to diffuse mistakes and make mistakes not the end of the world. Make mistakes not this pattern of, oh my God, and then it's going to be over. A mistake is going to lead to, they're going to be alone for the rest of their life. No, it's a mistake. So, one thing I do, and this is a theater tip. So when you're in the theater, when you're doing a play and you're reading scripts and you're sort of doing your run-throughs, people make mistakes all the time, especially if they're memorizing lines. So if people were totally yelled at by directors constantly for making mistakes as they're memorizing their lines, there would be no productions because everyone forgets their lines. So often what they do is a person will forget a line, and instead of going, oh my God, I made a mistake, I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry, okay. They celebrate it, all right? And the way they celebrate is they make a mistake and they do something like, ole, which is a celebration of making the mistake. Or there's another thing to do is you make it silly, a silly mistake. And so I want you all to practice this one, all right? So someone makes a mistake in one of my groups, and what do? We all go, ah! No, we don't do that. We go, rutabaga. So come on, let's hear, rutabaga. Excellent. So come on up. So now I'm going to show you how that can come in handy. Okay, so everyone, let's stand in a circle. Okay. Now, stand a little closer, making a mistake. And playing with making a mistake. So we're going to play a game. We're going to play a ball game. And it's basically a pattern game. All you have to remember is who you throw it to. Now you throw it to somebody. Throw it. And you. So you need to remember who you throw it to, who you throw it, yeah. Excellent. So. Oop. Okay, think about it. Sensory.
Oh, wait.
Sounds. You got friends.
Okay, there we go.
Social interaction. Parents. Girlfriends. Social media. Yeah, of course I'm whipping them out, yeah. Okay. So, how does that feel?
Overwhelming.
Overwhelming, absolutely. That is your children's lives.
Yeah.
That is exactly what your children feel like all day long. It's coming at me, it's coming at me. I can't juggle it, I can't juggle it, I can't juggle it. I dropped it. I made a mistake. And what do we do if we make a mistake? We say, rutabaga. So you celebrate it. So that's what I teach in my groups. And that's what I teach my teens. Mistakes are not the end of the world. If they become the end of the world, they themselves are going down that path to, I'm alone. But they're not. They're just mistakes. Okay? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, we're going to end with one thing. Because another thing that's very important, this is play. Play is very important. in any relationship, with our kids, with our spouses, with our partners, with anybody we're in contact. Play, being playful. Sometimes it is very hard to be playful in this world. It is very hard. But we need to sort of remember that life is, we kind of got to play. If we don't play, we're just going to always be miserable, right? I mean, really, if we're not smiling and playing, what are we? We're just, I don't know. Yeah, you're a bunch of rutabagas and stamped on. So we're going to play a game. So I just need 4 people for this game. And you're going to sit in those 4 chairs right there. Because as I said, remember, I use improv in every group. It's an easy game. Trust me, easy, easy, easy. Come play, come play, come play.
Come on, you two.
Come on. So I use improvisation in every group. And the reason I use improvisation is because there are rules to improvisation. Like I said, people think there aren't, but there are and see, they are in red. There are rules. Because yes, you can make mistakes, but there is good improv and there is bad improv. So there are rules. But these are also rules to social interaction. Because they are exactly what we talked about. Because in improvisation, the biggest thing is not to block, not to stop the action. You know? So if I come over to you and I say, Uncle Thomas, it's so good to see you again. And you say,
Good to see you.
okay, that was good improv. That's a bad improv. Say, I'm not your uncle. Okay. Uncle Thomas, it's so good to see you.
Ugh, who are you?
Yes, who are you? Okay, that's a block. That's a deny. Okay, so we don't want to do that. But there's lots of ways we can block. And those are the social things. Letting go of your agenda. You have to let go of your agenda to be a good improviser. Listening to other people. You have to listen to other people to be a good improviser. You have to go along. You have to say yes and add. You have to add to be a good improviser. All these rules, but they are the rules of social interaction if you break them down. Yes and, which is the credo of an improvisational actor, is yes and you take it up a notch and you always agree and you move it forward. But what is yes and? Yes and is a conversation. That's all it is. If you break it down to what it is, it's keeping a conversation going. So you have to say yes, and it just goes back and forth. So you break it down, and they are really the rules. So here's the game. So this is called one-word story. All right? So what you're going to do is you, as a group, you are one, and you are going to tell a story. And each person can only say one word, and you can't think about it too long. Can't try to go, oh, well, that goes with this. You will try to listen to everybody. You will try to make it make sense, but do not think too hard. Okay? Yes?
Do we go in sequence?
Yes, you go in sequence.
Okay, so it's not random?
Nope, not random. That's a different game. The way to get in touch with me, there's all sorts of information on that table when you came in. I am offering workshops this summer. I am offering workshops with just skills based on improvisation. So it would be using improvisation, exactly the rules for social skills. So we would still be using real scenes, and this is for young adults, this is for teens. Real scenes, but using the rules of improvisation. And I'm going to be doing a pre-college for both boys and girls, and I'm also always open to other groups. You call me and you say, I want a group for this. Do you have something for this? Great. Always looking for it. And the thing also that I do couples works, and I also do family work. And my husband and I do family work together, Dr. Jonathan Bass. And he and I work with families where somebody in the family is identified with some social issue, and it is affecting the dynamic within the family. And so he and I have been working very effectively with families now for about 4 years using action methods. We do the same things. We see the scenes that go on within the family's life and say, how can we fix this? How can we understand this? So that's what he and I do together. The way I put groups together is it's important for me, and what I have actually found that it is important for the group. If the group can look around and see, you're like me. I relate to what you're saying. So I try very hard to get cohesive groups that way. So the ways I form groups is I usually get phone calls for people who are interested, whether or not I've put out something or whether or not it's out there on AANE's site or whoever else, or it's on my website. And then what I do is I actually interview everyone who wants to be a member of my group, because I want to make sure that this is not a everybody who's got X diagnosis, you all go together, because that actually doesn't work a lot. And that is feedback I get from a lot of people I work with, is that the last time I did a skills group, everyone in the group, no one was like me. So that's how I try to form them, so that people see each other, can see themselves. Thank you. I hope this is valuable. I hope I get to see some of you again.